I would like, yeah, just before this, I would like to say that this webinar would be recorded. So please accept this, that is being recorded. You should have the sign now already. Okay, now I will try to share my screen. Can you see it? Yes, okay. First, I would like to introduce the program of today's webinar. Let me see if you can, I can change it. Do you see the program? Okay. Just so you know what is ahead of you, we will start with a short presentation of TESI. This is Training and Education in Social Innovation Project. And we will present actually the idea behind these webinars and the study program that is being prepared within this project. Next, Professor Mateja Sedmak, she will present a case study on social innovation entitled What Children Think, Child-Centered Approach as a Social Innovation Education. And this will be followed by a guided discussion with our three guests that we have today, namely Dr. Jože Ruparčić, who is a Deputy Human Rights Ombudsman and he is responsible for children's rights. Then Mirna Bujic from Cultural and Educational Association, PINA. She mostly, but not exclusively, works in migration field. And then we have Mrs. Ivana Štrkler from the City Municipality of Koper, Department of Economy, Agriculture and Development. I would kindly ask, this will be followed by the question and answer session. I would kindly ask all persons to put the microphone. Katya. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for this. So at the end, you will have an possibility to comment on the presentation and ask our guests some questions. But before this, I will start with the presentation of the project. Here you can see the project partnership. The project is led by the University of Bologna, who is a lead partner, as I say, and the partners come from 6 countries. And the other partners are listed here. As you can see, Hellenic Open University, Department of Special Account for Research Funds from Greece, then another partner from Italy, University EU from Venice, University of Belgrade, Faculty of Philosophy from Serbia, University of Tirana from Albania, University of Zagreb from Croatia, and our Institute from Social Studies, ZRS Koper from Slovenia. There is also a number of associated partners that support this project. You can see them listed here. They come from Albania, Italy, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Slovenia. Center for Legal Empowerment from Albania, Italian Association for the Promotion of the Culture of Cooperation and Non-Profit. Then there's Development Agency of Una Sana Canton Bihać, ADRION Association of University of the Adriatic Ionian area, and our Ministry of Economic Development and Technology. So what are the main objectives of the project? First one is to raise competencies and skill in social innovation. This we will do through this series of webinars that you are attending, but also through summer schools, workshops, and so on. And the next objective is actually to establish a network of university and research centers to define and implement a joint master program on social innovation. So actually the main project outputs will be, as I said, preparation of the action plan for the joint master and the strategy of its implementation. But another important output of the project is also innovative transnational network that aims to connect not only project partners, associated partners, and so on, but also other universities, research centers, NGOs, public authorities, small and medium enterprises that are interested or are working in the field of social innovation. And the aim is to support and promote this joint master program and to exchange ideas, exchange possible cooperation, and so on. So any one of you who would be interested to, or your institution to join, are of course very welcome to join our network. I will let you know how later on. But before this, I will just tell you something about the joint master that is being prepared within this project. This will be a joint degree masters. This means that participants have the chance of attending different universities. That is recognized this period abroad also at their university. Then there will be also mobility of professors from all these 6 countries. Professor will be hosted by different universities. One important aspect of this future joint master is the internship, because it foresees internship at business partners, NGOs, research institutions, small and medium enterprises, and so on. And then concrete elaboration of a master thesis in collaboration with these partners. Because the masters itself is very applicative in a way, because it tries to give us the hands-on experience, and the students will actually learn by doing. So these courses are mainly will be laboratories, workshops, and so on. And another aspect important from the masters is that there will be concrete study tours, on-site visits, and so on. So you can have a broad idea about how our masters in social innovation will look like. And just briefly, we would like to stress or emphasize how social innovation is seen within these joint masters, very broadly in a way, but following these 3 points. This is kind of definition we use in the masters. So social innovation occurs when collective action achieves 3 main forms of change. This is either alone or in combination. One is satisfaction of human needs that are otherwise not met or considered. Then the empowerment of marginalized social groups, thereby they increase their visibility, recognition, access or voice rights, and so on. And the third one is the changes in social power and or governance relations with the community and society. So we can later discuss with our guests and among you about our presented case study and whether and how does it fits this social innovation definition. On the right side, now you can also see 5 specific topics that the masters will be focusing on. Besides, of course, theoretical aspects on social innovation, methodological tools, and so on, the master will cover these important topics: migration and social inclusion, aging, urban and rural development, social and sustainable economy, as well as education. So this was really a very brief presentation of our project. Now we will continue with the webinar, but before this, I would like to remind you that there will be 4 more webinars. Currently, there is, we are the webinar, What Children Think, Child-Centered Approach to Social Innovation and Education, but it will be followed by 4 webinars on 14th, 19th, 21st, and 23rd of June. One will be dedicated to the innovative support to social entrepreneurship in Croatia on 14th of June. The next one to urban regeneration and capacity building, then data and analytical tools to visual knowledge, and then strengthen the role of civil society through participatory design. Each will be offered by a different university, as you see. So you are welcome to join also other webinars. And here is some information about our project, the web page and the LinkedIn page. And again, you are welcome to join our network directly through web page or our newsletter. So this is all from now from my side. I would like to thank you and will give the floor to Professor Mateja Sedmak, who is also the head of Institute for Social Studies at the Science and Research Center Koper, and who was also a coordinator of the Horizon 2020 project that dealt with the main topic she's presenting today, namely the child-centered approach. So Matea, the floor is yours, and I will stop sharing now.
Thank you very much, Zorana, for your kind presentation, and a warm welcome also on my behalf. I will now start to share the screen. I hope everything will go okay. Oh, sorry, this is not the right one. Share the screen, and I will share this one. It is okay, you can see it?
Yes.
I will just try to go to the next page just to see if it's working. It's not working.
Not at the moment. Sometimes it takes some time.
I will try again. Zorana, kaj zdaj kliknem na tisto, ta veliko?
Jaz bi kar velela share screen, ja, prav tam, kjer imaš osebe gor.
Dobro, now it can be seen.
Zdaj vidimo, ja. It can be seen, Matea.
Yeah. Now I'll try just to go to the next page just to see if it's working.
Just before you start, Matea, I would just like to remind everyone to put the name and the surname besides, so we can see it, because later on we will also issue the certificate of participation. So you're kindly asked to put both name and the surname visible in the Zoom. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's start. The title of my presentation is What Children Think, Child-Centered Approach as a Social Innovation Education. And I will present this social innovation practice on the case of MiCreate project, Migrant Children and Communities in a Transforming Europe. So what is the aim of the presentation? The main emphasis is, as already mentioned, to present this project that was going on for quite a lot of time. I think it was more than 3 years. It was actually Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Action, as Zorana already mentioned, and lasted from January 2019 to December 2022. Here is the consortium. It was actually quite a huge project that involved 15 academic institutions and NGOs from all around Europe. 12 European countries were involved, and more than 70 researchers. Here we can just see, you know, the institutes and the NGOs that were involved is the list. And it's a little bit, or it's too quick, or it's not working. Sorry. Okay, then the aim of the project. There were several aims. I will just present the main important one. The first one was the encourage integration of different groups of migrant children in European societies with an emphasis on the child-centered approach. I will explain a little bit more what we meant by this child-centered approach. Then second aim was to improve knowledge about the peer dynamics in school and how these peer dynamics are related to integration. Third, to improve the capacity of children and other educational staff to manage cultural diversity and to support integration of migrant children. Then to develop different types of tools that will promote integration of migrant children. And finally, we try to develop some child-centered policy recommendation on integration, and we delivered it to different decision makers. What we mean when we are talking about child-centered approach. So child-centered approach can be understood in diverse, in very different ways. However, a child-centered approach for us is not child-friendly approach, but it means that it's including children voices and children perspective. This, furthermore, it's very big emphasis put on the fact that the children should be heard and their opinion respected in all the phases of the project. This means in the methodology and the research, then when we are preparing policy recommendation, learning materials, etc. What does mean more concretely that we are considering children perspective? This means that we consider how children experience and describe their own lives, what is important to them, how they actually understand integration, how they understand well-being, and what is important to them in this process. This means that you are actually creating a space, a socio-political space where the voices, views, experiences can be heard and considered. Put it in another way, child-centered approach means that we shift from a dominant so-called adult-centered approach to an approach that puts children and their experiences into focus. Because now when we are talking about the integration, we have researchers, we have teachers, we have policymakers, different adults that are actually, working on the integration. They are defining what integration is, they are defining the measures and the tools and the processes to integrate migrant children. They are defining what is actually successful integration. But on the other hand, we have this presumption that maybe and probably for the migrant children, integration can be something else, or at least maybe some things can be very similar to the adult-centered perception, but on the other hand, we have this feeling that we are still missing something. So what was the problem identification? Problem identification on which was actually our starting point in writing the project and then the working in the project. We are actually facing the increasing migration trends all around Europe. This is not nothing new, we already know that. And consequently, there is also increasing multiculturality in schools and in society in general. Stephen Vertovec for this developed in approximately 15 years ago a term super diversity to express this very, very linguistically, religiously, and culturally diverse societies all across Europe. And now, as a consequence of this migration trends, increasing interculturality and so on, we are also facing increasing challenges in schools. How to manage all this cultural super diversity on one hand, and on the other hand, how to achieve successful long-term integration of migrant children. Because only with the successful integration, we can expect that the migrant children that are coming today will be tomorrow full members of European societies. And moreover, when we are talking about the successful integration, only if we achieve it, we can, all of us, live in democratic, inclusive, safe, and cohesive societies. So our starting point was that integration policies and practices are prevailingly prepared by adults, but it is always this but, we continued that integration policies and practices will be successful or are successful only if they will be in line with children's experiences and views. And this was our red line that went all through our project. So why I'm emphasizing so much this successful integration? Because successful integration has many benefits on the individual and on the societal level, and also for the migrant children, but also for the local community, local children, local parents, schools, and so on. If we first look at the immigrant children or migrant children, only with the successful integration, they will be able to use their potential, and only integration will ensure their long-term social, economic, and political participation in the society. On the other hand, when we are talking about the local children, local community, successful integration is promoting tolerance, is promoting acceptance and respect for diversity. It's also strengthening the ability to overcome fears, ethnic and cultural prejudice, stereotypes, and so on. Finally, only diverse, but at the same time inclusive and cohesive societies are the places where everybody can and want to live. These places are good, are safe, and are accepted toward everyone, are pleasant for everyone to live in. When we're talking about integration, it is important to emphasize that especially early integration in preschool and school period is crucial. So earlier the better, we can say, because you know, with the integration we can really prevent some later, you know, very negative phenomenon that can affect, as I already mentioned, individuals and whole society. This means that if we do not have integration practices, then we can face the fear that the migrant children that are coming today in Europe will face the possibility of poverty, exploitation, extremism, and so on. And here I listed only some of the possible challenges, possible threats. So the absence or inadequate integration can lead also toward to violation of children's rights, social inequalities, exclusion, segregation, ghettoization, and further on, interethnic conflicts, also radicalization, and so on. So now I will present child-centric approach and our research, how it was conducted, and later on I will present you some results. So firstly, our target groups in our research were all children. This means more concretely local children and migrant children, newly arrived migrant children, also long-term migrant children, then also second and third generation migrant children, refugees, asylum seekers, unaccompanied minors, and so on. Why am I emphasizing this? Because a lot of time we are facing wrong proposition that integration is only the integration of migrant children into the whole society. This is not true, because the integration is always a two-way process, that it's involving different actors, locals and migrants. It is involving all children, and it's also on the long term affecting all children. Therefore, we decided that our target groups will be all children. Main activities of this project, just to give you an impression, you know, about different tasks that we had. Of course, as similar in other this type of projects, we had this desk research and collection of good practices. You know, we were doing research what was going on already in different countries all around Europe. Then we made the research also among the educational community, teachers and all those who are actually involved in the integration process of migrant children. Then we made the research among the main policymakers and stakeholders in different countries. And today, presentation of the results will base mostly or primarily on the results in the research conducted among children. The children that were involved in our study were children from 10 to 17 years old from the primary and secondary schools, and the children in the asylum centers, hotspots, and camps. Then we prepared or organized also policy lab, integration lab, in order to disseminate all our, you know, knowledge to the teachers, to the policymakers, and so on. And then another task was also dissemination of activities to the wider audience. So research in schools and in camps took time in the period from September 2019 to September 2001. As already mentioned, research was conducted in school on one hand, primary and secondary schools, but on the other hand, also in the refugee centers, camps, and so on, in 10 countries. The countries are listed here. 9 are from EU countries, and the last one is Turkey. What I would like to emphasize is that we use different methodological approaches, and we put a special emphasis to use so-called child-centered approaches, or put it in another way, the approaches that can give to the children the most space to express themselves. These are, for example, participant observation. We spend a lot of time in schools just observing children in this passive period. And in active period, it was the participant observation. This means that we were talking with children, doing the things with them, and so on. Then we applied art-based approach. This means that we use different art-based techniques to collect data that we wanted. We are also collecting autobiographical stories. This means that we are talking with children, migrant and local children, about their life, what they are feeling, what is important to them, what they think it is important for integration process, what is important for them, their well-being. Because we notice that if we want to talk about the successful integration, it is very important to address the holistically the whole process of integration and to look at the well-being of the children in general. And the higher is well-being, the higher are possibilities for the successful integration and vice versa. Then we conducted also focus groups with children and teachers, and also the survey. So the sample at the end, we can say that there were more than 6,000 migrant local children involved in the study, more than 500 representative of educational staff and teacher, more than 40 schools, plus all asylum homes and hotspots and informal, camps where we were in contact with migrant children. Maybe just to mention quickly, we had also very big challenges because of COVID-19 pandemic, but then we adapted our research, and at the end, everything went just fine. So research in school, if we put, I just wanted to present, what is the prevailing approach when we are usually doing the research in school, and on the other hand, what we tried to do a little bit different. We noticed through the desk research and to the previous research of what other did, or other researches, what other wrote in the recommendations, in the policy briefs, and so on. We noticed that there are predominant two approaches. The first approach that is very present is so-called deficit approach when we are talking about the migrant children. And this approach is actually exposing all the time that migrant children, that they lack something. For example, migrant children do not speak our host language. They don't know our culture, our customs, and so on. Even if, on the other hand, they can be multilingual, they can speak 3-4 languages. Some of them are on the road for many years. Some of them change many countries. Some of them have extended families spread all around Europe. And they have very wide knowledge of different cultural situations, and they can speak several languages, but we are always in this formal school settings, there is always this deficit approach. If you don't speak national language, then there is a problem. And the other thing is predominance of the trauma approach when we are talking about migrant children. This means that there is a prevailing perceiving of the children, migrant children, as passive, those who need helps, those who are traumatized, and so on. This is true. This is sometimes very true, but migrant children are much more than that. They are, from our experience, from the experience from our child-centered research, active managers of their lives. They are living experts of what is going on when we are talking about the migration and integration. They are resistant, resilient, they are adaptable, they develop different survival strategies, and a lot of time they are socially and emotionally much more mature due to the personal experiences they have. So our child-centered approach wanted to recognize them as relevant and active. And we really wanted to give them the place and possibility to express what they think about migration and integration process, plus to consider their voices and translate them in the policy education and in the practices that they will develop in schools. So some results. Just a second. Okay. Key findings and a recommendation. So after doing this child-centered research, we can say that there are numerous facilitators and barriers to the integration of migrant children. Here I will mention only some of them to not be too long. So sense of belonging and well-being at school.
Okay. Find the words and say, we are eating apples, they are eating bananas. Havni fituar në klasë dhe krijoni. Çfarë figure po bën këtë të parë? We are. Çfarë po bën figura e parë?
I'm really sorry.
We are.
Sorry, is it possible to mute the participants that talk?
We can hear, yeah, the voices. Thank you very much. So firstly, sense of belonging and well-being at school. Migrant children expose that integration means from them to being a part of a group, to belong, to be accepted. So this is really important part. Therefore, we translated their perception, views, and wishes to the policy recommendations that are exposing that school culture is really important, and it's really important to fostering well-being, belonging of the children if we want to achieve long-term successful integration. This means that we must adopt systematic plans, but also provide financial means. Then that it's important to include topics of diversity into existing curriculum. Then to establish a very, very clear reception path with a child-centered approach. This means that these things cannot be left to the goodwill of teachers or headmasters. These things must be organized on the systemic level. And then it's important to establish clear protocols and procedures to prevent and report harassment that is based on ethnicity, race, religion, gender, and so on. Second thing that's important is relation with educational staff. Children mostly express that the staff, educational staff, teachers are supportive and helpful, but at the same time, we also heard the stories about the teacher and educational staff who were insensitive, uncaring, unaware, lacking cultural competencies. Therefore, it is really important that we provide systemized training to teacher. Then that we also train the future teacher. We also notice that at the level of the faculties for the future teachers, there are hardly some elements of knowledge how to manage cultural diversity, how to face the process of integration, how to strengthen the process of integration, all these kind of things. And the teachers are actually very confused. Their teachers a lot of times are expressing very loudly that they are lacking the appropriate knowledge. This type of trainings will actually make teachers confident. They will empower them. And it's really, really important that we work a lot on the cultural competencies of the teacher themselves, because sometimes even if the teachers want to be supportive, they are actually perpetuating ethnic prejudice, ethnic stereotypes, and so on. And there are, doing opposite that it would be recommended. The third thing, relation with peers and friends. Migrant children express very, very clearly, as soon as they get friends, they feel better, their well-being is increasing, and also the process of integration is going on more smoothly. Therefore, it's really important that we as teachers, as a policymaker, as adults are working on the actions that are promoting strong relationships, among the students, peers, friends, and so on. And what is also important, it's not enough that migrant children socialize among themselves. It is really important to support peer socialization also with the local children. This was exposed very concretely a lot of time, and this observation is really important if we look at the situation from the point of view of countries which have two separate parallel systems, one for the local children, one for the migrant children, because there is a very strong discussion going on what is the best way to integrate migrant children. On our experiences, we can say that, you know, only one system, mixed system, is the best one. So we must really try to avoid any segregation of migrant children in the separate classes or separate schools. But of course, as I will mention later on, it is really needed, you know, that we include linguistic support to empower migrant children to be able to follow the regular classes. Family and school parents relations. Migrant children are exposing that the family is the most important factors of their well-being and also integration. The family is for migrant children the source of support, the source of identity, the source of their belonging, safety, and so on. But unfortunately, we notice that is often overlooked within policy. What this means? That we recommended that the schools should put more effort to establish strong and long-term working relationship with migrant children families. This is not enough that we contact the family only at the beginning of the school years, but the family must be in continuous, you know, a relation with the school. If this is going on to some extent at the primary level school, is completely missing at the secondary level school. This is one thing. And the other thing, if we go beyond the extended family, it is really important that also the ethnic community of the child is accepted by the school and by the local people. Why? Migrant children exposed, and this is really informative sentence, that if migrant children is seeing that local community or schools or teacher, they are not accepting member of his or her own community, it is really hard to expect that this child will be happy, you know, to integrate in the society that's actually rejecting his family and his ethnic community. Nevertheless, if on the other hand, the teachers can be very supportive toward him as a person, as a pupil. Language and language policies. So migrant children, we can say that they are very highly motivated to learn local language. Too often we hear that migrant children, they do not want to speak local language. They have very big problems to learn local language and so on. And all the burden to learn local language is actually put on them. What is wrong with this perception? Firstly, we must be aware that migrant children, as already said, are very well aware that to learn local language is the enters to all other things. They know that they must learn language as soon as possible so that they will be able to learn, you know, in school, that they will be able to communicate with peers, that they will be able to have some friends and so on. But we, as a system, as a teacher, as adults, must support them in this process. This means that we must organize more legally guaranteed hours for official language learning, to employ more qualified bilingual or multilingual teacher, to give them support also, more long-term support. For example, after half year or 1 year, migrant children usually are just, forgotten. They already know the language. They are also already part of the system, and nobody's really looking at them anymore. We noticed that also the migrant children who are in the country for a longer period, long-term stay migrant children, or also the migrant children of second and third generation can still have a smaller or lower knowledge of language. Therefore, it would be good, to consider also that this support, language support, should be prolonged. Diversity, transnationality, and multilingualism. We must be aware, and the migrant children were expressing this all the time. Migrant children are anchored in diverse transnational settings. Their identities are plural, are mixed, are hybrid, and this is almost always overlooked. In most of the countries, there is the only prevailing culture, one culture, prevailing one language, and also we have this presence of monocultural curriculum and monocultural teaching methods. What can be done in this respect? We suggested the possibility to develop the curricula that would acknowledge various cultures, then to include diversity quota also in employment policies, then to build normative framework for respecting migrant children's language and culture and give them value. Provide more multilingual practices and give a space and offer learning of these languages to local children. And finally, for those who are very newly arrived and are not fluent in the host language, to give them possibility to be assessed also in the language that they may speak more fluently. Finally, respect children's agency in school practices. So regardless the state, we can generalize that children are not recognized enough as active agents in integration process. Migrant children, but adult children, local children. Therefore, it is necessary to shift and to move away from this only adult-centric approach to more child-centered approach, and so that the children can become more active and present in defining problems on one hand, and on the other hand, framing solution. This means that we can support the children to participate in defining and developing, for example, school practices. We can include them to a higher extent in the preparation of individual integrational plans, or we can involving them into a higher extent, especially migrant children, to be participant in different pupils and students' councils, and so on. Okay, what we learned very, very shortly and in a concentrated way. On one hand, we have this adult's perspective, what successful integration is, and on the other hand, we have prevailing children perspective, what successful integration is. The adults, typical adults, policymakers, educational research perspective is the integration is successful when the child learned the host language. Then we are looking at the achieving knowledge. So the children now they learn something, they know something. And this is measured through the academic success. If the migrant children is promoted to a higher class, this means that we prevent dropout. This is a positive and good integration. And if the migrant children is on the long term employable, this is also a sign of good integration. Children do agree with all this. However, on the other hand, they are exposing as very, very important facilitators of their integration, and also as a sign of a good integration, following facts: that they have friends, that they have sense of belonging, that they are accepted in schools and by colleagues, that they have a sense of inclusion, that they have a feeling that the family, his or her family, is accepted, and that they have feeling that the ethnic community, their ethnic migrant community, is accepted as well. So we can see, you know, this difference in the approaches and perceptions. Conclusions, relevance, and transferability. So, of course, we believe that application of so-called child-centered approach can be much wider. This means that we can apply child-centered approach in different situations within educational settings that go beyond integrational challenges. For example, when we are preparing the rules, legislations, measures to preventing peer violence, drug problems, and so on, we can use child-centered approach. Listen to children, to give them voice, that they can have the possibility to express how they will frame the problem and tackle the problem. Then when we are preparing school curricula, organization of everyday life, meals in schools, organization of extracurricular activities, or maybe, I don't know, the prevention of deviant behavior, sanction and punishment, all these things can include the voices and perception of children. But also, when we are going outside the educational arena, when we are talking about the organization of community life, sports activities, and so on, when we are talking about different activities where children are involved or are intended for children, in all these situations, we can include this child-centered approach. I would just like to mention here for the end, the project guide. This is Growing Up in Digital Europe project. This is the first longitudinal study on well-being of children that is in the phase of preparation. It will start approximately in the year 2027, and it will last 25 years. It will be made on 2 cohorts for 25 years, on the cohorts of newborns and on the cohort of 8 years olds, and it will be repeatedly, you know, made every 2 years, so that we will collect the data all around Europe, how the European children are growing. And why I mentioned this project, because this child-centered approach will be a basis for this survey as well. And it looks as, you know, that the politicians and researchers are starting to see, considering this child-centered approach more and more. So more information about what I was talking about, you can find on our webpage, also on Twitter and other accounts, or you can turn the questions to organizers of this event, Zorana, or to myself. Thank you very much, and I will be very much happy to answer you if you have any questions or to explain something more if I was maybe unclear. Thank you very much. I will stop to share.
Thank you, Matea, for your presentation, an in-depth presentation of the case study. I propose that we move towards the second part of our webinar, in which we will discuss what you presented with our guests, discussants who will comment and share their points of view. But of course, later on, you can pose some questions also to Matea directly in a discussion that will follow this guided discussion later on. So now we heard about the child-centered approach, about putting children at the center and taking into account their views, experience, assessments of their own lives, and so on. And we actually saw the case of applying this to address the integration of migrant children in the education system. And this information can, of course, be used also to inform policies. And first, I would like to invite Mr. Dr. Jože Ruparčić, Deputy of Human Rights Ombudsman, who is responsible for children's rights in Slovenia, to comment about this, because we discussed the social innovation. I would like to ask you, Mr. Ruparčić, what were the aspects of this case, maybe that you found particularly innovative or impactful? Maybe we start with this question, and then later on we can also see about other aspects of this issue.
Thank you very much, Zorana, for having me. Thank you for inviting me. First of all, I would like to express my deepest thanks to Matea as well, Barbara and Blaž. I think you are making things for the better. This is my opinion, and all these projects, which also the institution of Ombudsman is involved with, are just wonderful. We support them very much, and you are making things and awareness for the children in the society, which I think it's very precious. At the beginning, I must say that we often say that our children are priceless. And what are we willing to do for them? And at the end, at this point, I would like to say, what is the price for the priceless values? Because we say children are priceless. And what is this approach? Very, very, very important for us is that we put the child in the center of our thoughts, of our behavior, everything. At Ombudsman Office, we have child's advocacy, and what we say that children can express their opinion in a safe environment. We can at this point, we can say that that's very important. We have to know what children are thinking, what are their needs, and how can we improve their status. At this point, I think it's enough for me. Thank you very much, and I will join, of course, later. Thank you very much.
Maybe because you also work generally with children, you can also give us your view on how this approach, child-centered approach, can be adapted to other social challenges that concern children, or if you already use this approach.
Yes.
Or which challenges do you think would be important to use or relevant to use this approach?
Thank you for bringing up this. We are using this in all our efforts to improve the children well-being. This is very important. We use it when children address to the office, because we must be aware that under Convention and Declaration of Children's Rights, Article 3, all government and all institutions must follow what is the best and what is in child's best interest. That's how we use all the efforts to persuade all the authorities that they must put a child in center of attention. This also concerns judicial procedures, not just regular, but judicial procedures. And we always say to the authorities that they must stop some actions, or they must persuade some actions if they are in the favor of a child. And I think this is the most important, that this is actually that we put a child in the center of our focus. At the end, it all comes what we do and what we are willing to do for children. This is not just something that we discuss, but we must take the actions, and we do it. Personally, I apply to many institutions that they have to do it. And also at this point, I would like to thank your institution that we are making a very good synergy with projects like MiCreate or Reboot now, and I think this is quite important that we are aware what is this bringing up to the children and to the whole society, because the whole society will profit with this approach as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rupercic. We discussed this issue now briefly from the perspective of the governmental institution, but now we would also like to hear views from the non-governmental perspective. And with us is Mirna Bujic. She comes from Cultural and Educational Association PINA. Mirna, you work mainly, we know you that you work on migration field, but also on other projects. And I would start with that. I read on your website, PINA, the association you work at, that the project work enables you to address current challenges while creatively developing new ways of thinking and acting. So you actually address different challenges, including migration ones, through kind of social innovation approach in PINA. Maybe can you briefly present some of your projects that use innovative approach in immigration or education or other ones? And particularly, we would be interested in the process, how you address the challenges in an innovative way as an NGO. How do you work it out?
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and thank you for the invitation. Yeah, PINA is basically an NGO, and its main approach, I should say, is that one of social innovation, and which goes hand in hand also with participatory processes in our local environment and also nationally and internationally. We work in different fields, as you mentioned, Zorana. I cover different fields, but also into the integration, migration field. And some approaches that we, or some projects or innovations that we tried to and implemented there were a lot. Mainly we focused on educational activities, on education. We don't work that much on with children, but with adults. But anyways, youth and adults, and our innovative educational programs that we created in the past 5 or 6 years are dealing with the enhancement of the skills of migrants in order to integrate them into the labor market in specific fields of culture and tourism. So these are some educational programs and activities we created in the past years and were really successful because at least 20 of the participants got a job or opened their own, their entrepreneurial activities, let's say so. Another successful approach was the approach of hub or incubator for migrants. Also, we dealt with skill enhancement, entrepreneurial skills enhancement, and also we helped migrants to create their associations, networks, and so on. So what is the main, red line? What is the main point here? It's to tackle their needs, their specific needs, and to work individually with every, participant, migrant, different projects or in different activities that we implement. In one project, international project, Erasmus Plus project, we also created, connected to the IT sector and social innovation. We created also a time bank for voluntary services, which connects migrants and locals in this exchange of skills, exchange of experiences, and so on. So there's different approaches, different projects that tackle individual. It is very important to tackle individual needs of migrants, but also, we tackle these more communal and common needs. So we also tried to, implement, and we launched a coordination body on the municipal level, which connects many stakeholders from different fields in order to, better integrate migrants in the local community. So there are different approaches, different projects, and different levels of implementation, or different levels of focus we work on.
Yes, thank you, Mirna. I know that your different actions are very impactful in our local level, and I know that you always find new ways, new ideas, new approaches, and you are very innovative in these ways. I would ask you to comment, maybe based on your experience, and also maybe the lessons learned from the case Mateja presented. What recommendation would you give to others working on similar social innovation projects?
Social innovation can have different approaches, different methodologies, but I would suggest, as I said, to focus on real. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Problem. Sorry, we can't hear you again. Something happened.
No?
Now, okay.
Okay. As I won't move. As I mentioned, it is really important. Okay, to introduce social innovations, there are different approaches, but it is important to really focus on specific needs on the local level, or which level you're working on, and it is really important also to involve as early as possible in this creation process, or in this in creation phase. All stakeholders needed that are really specific for a certain field. In order to also, to assure the sustainability of these innovations. This is very important. Think always on how these social innovations, on whichever are, can be sustainable. So, we know, especially, NGOs and also other organizations are financed projectly. There are no continuous funds, and you have to think how to keep your innovations going without the funds. And this is a crucial factor in this innovation process. And always involve all the stakeholders needed, because they can implement afterwards also parts of all innovations, and also you can transfer these innovations on a different level, systemic level, or also include with some advocacy action which should support also these innovation actions. You can include them into policies on the local, national, international level. This is it has to be you have to approach social innovation in a holistic way.
Yes, Mirna, you said that there is always problem with funding and sustainability of such projects. Maybe you can share some opinions on how maybe policymakers, government agencies could better support this kind of social innovation project, also to give them sustainability in the long term. The ones presented by Matea maybe, or the ones you also do at PINA and other NGOs.
Well, it would be great that policymakers could, they should actually, those social innovations that proved really impactful or that worked, they should include them into policies, strategies, into action plans, and find, funding from state or other sources. So this is very important, for us also in the field of migration. Currently, a new integration strategy is being drafted, and some best practices in terms of social innovations in the field of migration have been identified. So why not include them in such, strategic policy papers or so on, in order to be supported. Our government really, in the past years, has supported pilot actions, basically social innovations in different fields, also in the fields of integration, and should think also, how to, integrate these pilots or in systemic way, in the system. This is crucial because we can't, work on pilots forever.
Thank you very much, Mirna, for all of your views, and hopefully you will join also discussion later and maybe share some other opinions or experiences. Finally, I would like to also invite Ivana Šterkar, who comes from the city municipality of Koper, who works in Department of Economy, Agriculture and Development, but previously you were also involved in Office of Social Activities and Development, to share also municipality perspective. So, okay, the case study we presented was dealing with the integration of migrant children, but as someone who works in the municipality, you come, I'm sure, across several social challenges that could be addressed through the social innovation approach. So maybe you can share how relevant is social innovation for addressing different social challenges at the municipal level.
Well, whatever we are doing is extremely important for the development of society and for introducing this new method of social innovation. So thank you in advance for inviting me and our municipality to be present at this meeting. But I think that, let's say, we as a municipality, we are learning by doing. And each time that we face a problem, we always try to see how to solve it. And obviously, we are more than willing to learn from your experience and from what you test in your project to be the right ways and the right paths to follow. The first thing that I think about for example, the preparation of your joint master, and I think that it's extremely important this internship that you are preparing inside this master. This is something that it's important for municipalities as well. I think that many of the social workers and people that work also inside the municipality we could involve many of the internship that come from this kind of master. And what we learn by your project is extremely important, since we know that this, putting in place the children as as the basic is very important, that all the integration should be focused on child is very important, but this is something also that we do as a municipality through some of the let's say programs that we develop and that we co-finance and finance partially. For example, in last year we let's say rebuild and we empowered more the counseling center for children, adolescents, and parents of Istria. This is the organization that we work quite good, and we let's say engage some more people to work with them. They're working in general, not just with immigrants family, but with all the problems that we tackle as a municipality. For example, now they work after these extreme violence behaviors that happened in Serbia. We as a municipality, in the next 2 weeks, we also tackled some very concrete violence behavior in the primary schools as well, in our primary schools as well. So let's say that this center was very involved with this problematic that appeared after this kind of problems. At the same time, we work very good with the Crisis Center for Children and Adolescents of Koper, but we are talking about not the night part of the center, but of the daily part of the center. And for example, in the daily part, they try to go in the primary schools, and they work very, very well with the children. But they try to, let's say, to detach and to underline the children that have problems, several kind of problems. I'm talking about drug dependence, alcohol dependence, whatever kind of dependence, or violence, even physical violence in the school. They try to detect this kind of children and then approach their families, through children. And later on, they develop special programs for the children as well. But first of all, you must help the family as well. So we are always talking. I think that those programs are very, very good for the children that go, as you said, to the primary schools. I think that we as a municipality must work a lot with the children that are in kindergartens as well, because they have the same problems and they are probably not detected enough early, and so that their problem escalate. This is something that we are now working on. There is a national law that says that teachers and the kindergarten teachers should detect this kind of children during the let's say the curriculum that they have to do, and that is prescribed by the law. But I think that this kind of abuses are still not detected at the proper time. They're detected too late, and children come to the school. And also for the immigrant children, there is the law that says that the mothers of the immigrant children should go to the Slovene course language when child goes to the primary school. I think that it is too late. If they come much earlier, they should go and to follow the Slovene course, because otherwise there is not this, right communication, child, teacher, parent. There is a parent missing inside this program, and this is something that is very important for us.
Yes, also Matea said that for children, families prove to be very important, so it's important to work with them. But speaking more generally about social innovation and municipality, what would you say, what are the key factors or conditions that actually enable successful implementation or scalability, replication, something that Mirna was also talking about, of social innovation initiatives?
I think the social innovation initiatives are very good, but later on, they should be structured as a program, because unfortunately, only at the national level, only programs are later on financed. So that means that social innovation should become a program. And as a program, we as a municipality should finance it for at least 5 years. It should demonstrate that it has this longevity and this determination and this, let's say, program. But you know, at the same time, the social innovation changes so quickly that even the 5-year program is too long for it because it develops. You know, each generation needs different approach. So if you start from the beginning, if you prepare it today, maybe in 5-year period, it is going to be, let's say, too old, and the approach should change. It is something that develops with the society. It's something not fixed, but we as a municipality, we can just apply with the program that are quite fixed ones for a 5 period time. And later on, we can ask at the national level to have them, you know, let's say, partially financed also by the national program. So I think that, you know, the society changes much quicker than our regulations and our policies. Mm-hmm. And this is something that we are aware of, but we actually, I don't know, we can give some suggestion at national level, you know, to approve them, let's say, not so strict way, but allow them to change and to have this modification even later on. This is something that could be useful for us.
What about the role of collaboration and partnership in fostering such maybe successful social innovation initiatives? How do you see it?
Since we collaborate very well, you know that my opinion is that we cannot do it from our offices. We are actually people who work on, I mean, we are here just administrator. I think that at the Slovenian level, there is a lack of legislation because about the migration itself, because there is sometimes the overlapping of the roles, or they are not very, they're not very well determined who has to do something. You know, there is just the let's say the administrative office, then the national office that gives, you know, some permits, but people need much more, and this more should come from the municipalities, from the local communities, not from the national, because, you know, they are too far from them. They just give them some documents, you know, but they do not allow them to have a good quality of life integration on the field. So we from the office, obviously, we cannot change things like that. So the collaboration with you as a partners is essential. From you, with, for example, with ZRS Koper is I think that this is a very good example, and also with PINA as well. We collaborate. I mean, we need you on the field, and as we said, I think that inside the municipality, we should have a people who works with the immigrants as well, who knows the problems, and who can, let's say, give you all the needed support, and later on, all your best practices, put them in the policies, you know, transform them in the policy. This is something that we now try to work together, and I hope that we will succeed, but I think that this kind of collaboration should go on, and this is the only way that we can work. You know, we are unfortunately detached sometimes from the problems on the field, like teachers, you know, like, you know, you know the problems, teachers face the problem. We are aware of some of them, but only when they come to this escalation process, not, you know, preventing them, detaching them in the beginning. For that reason, we have this kind of programs with this kind of collaborations, you know, as I said, with some of the programs that exist with you and these institutes that research them, but the collaboration should be on the long term. Otherwise, it's not enough. It's not enough.
Well, thank you also, Ivana, for sharing your views on social innovation, on the case study presented. And now I would like to give the floor to the participants and maybe ask the participants if they have any questions for our presenter, Mateja, or our discussants. And you are also welcome if you would like to put them, if you prefer, you can also write it in a chat. But otherwise, yes, Jože.
Yes, thank you very much. The one thing I would like to point out is that social innovations are also very profitable. Not just that they are right, but they are profitable. If we invest in programs which put children in the center, we will benefit that in the future. For instance, this directly reduces the crime rate, for instance, in the future. And all these social innovations are implementing prosperity in the society. That's why inclusion is so important, because all the potentials of the society are being used. Creativity of the people will be used for the better world, and I think this is very important. If we invest now, we will have benefit in the future. Like my honorable friend would say, this will be the best investment which we would have, because Americans, they calculated that if we put $1 in the society for the children, for the education, it will be benefited at least 50 times more. So if we put money now in these programs, and we put children in the center, we will benefit in the future. This is my message. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jože. Are there any other questions or comments from the participants?
Maybe if I can add just one problem that is now, let's say it's now, it wasn't present in Slovenia, but with new approaches, now it's going to present us the problems in the future. And even though we are aware of that, we are still doing it. And this is the problem of social housing.
Mm-hmm.
Up to now, we as a Slovenia, we were an extremely good example of the of creation of social mix. So that means that let's say the companies responsible for the building of social houses, even though they're public companies, but anyway, they're still companies. They were building social housing, and they up to now, they always, they were trying to make a social mix. That meant that they, in these kind of new buildings, they put it new areas even. They try to sell on the market some of the apartments, and some of them were given to the families with social needs, not all of them. And this is something that we were very proud of, because with that, we try to eliminate the ghettos that were present in other nations. This is something that we did good. Now, with the new rules and with new, let's say, expectation, because the need is so big lately, we are trying to make the new apartments, the new skyscraper, let's say, inside the cities, with only families with social needs. And this is something that is not going to be good for our society in the future. And we as a city are aware of that. This is going to make new problems in the future. And this is something that we are trying now to, you know, to speak with the ministries and to explain them. But unfortunately, they already they wrote some programs that cannot now be changed as they should be. They were already adopted and they're ongoing, and they have to be ended until 2026. And we have this time pressure and time schedule that is very strict, and we must do them. But you know, it is the mistake that we are now doing instead of learning from the others. And this is something that in our city is going to be present in the future, and I don't know how to avoid it. Actually, you know, we are put in place that, okay, it's fine, we need those apartments, we have to build them, but instead of having 166, you know, new apartment built in this way, we should have only half of them and build new ones in new areas, you know. And this is something I know we should learn from what we are doing wrong and how to make it better. And we should also appreciate what we are doing correctly. And instead of, you know, giving our best practices to the other, we are now, you know, just accepting the bad practices from the other. And this is something that bothers me quite a lot, me personally, because I know that this is something that we are not, I mean, we will have to face those problems later on. And this is, I think, not good for the society itself, but not only in my city, in many other cities as well.
So this is, you would say, like something that was working like a social innovation, maybe that was successfully implemented for a certain period of time, does not have its sustainability in the long term this way.
Yes, that's true. We as a city, we could not, you know, allow us to build so many areas and so quickly at the same time, you know, and this is, you know, we cannot obtain all the permits for more houses at the same time, you know. This is expensive, and since we have to do it in such a short time, I mean, this is going to be a problem for our society in the future. It was a social innovation, while we as a municipality could build it in more slower way, or the social housing companies could building in not so, I mean, such a rush.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ivana, also for your view. Maybe any other questions, comments now for our discussants, for our presenters, so we can continue our discussion on social innovation in relation to child-centeredness. Maya?
Hi, I'm Maya. I also come from ZRS Koper. Maybe I have just a comment because it's so nice to see all like quite different stakeholders together discussing a quite important topic. And I agree with you all essentially in like this is important, and it's important to take into consideration, I think Mirna said, all the relevant stakeholders in the process, because only in this way, of course, integration or any other kind of intervention can be successful. And yeah, we were here talking about social innovations, but we sometimes forget that we, as Ivana said, we have some really good that were working already, and maybe now we are forgetting about them. Yes.
Thank you, Maya, also for your view. And other opinions or comments or questions? If not, then I would like to thank you all for participating at this webinar. And you're welcome to join us on our next webinars. And for those who would like to get to know more about our joint master program, you are of course welcome to visit our websites and to join also our transnational network. Thank you, everybody, and hope to see you in the next webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.